Hi and welcome to this video. Today we're talking about domain functional level upgrades for Active Directory and how they affect Centrify agents. As you know, Centrify agents are basically Active Directory clients. So you must work as a team to when things like domain functional level upgrades are going to be implemented. And because Windows Server 2003 ended support back in the summer, a lot of organizations are actually sprinting to do this because um, you know, you have to be current on software. So the key here is understanding what are the consequences of a domain functional upgrade. And this is exactly what we covered in this blog post, right? So key here is to understand that when you increase the domain functional level, especially coming from, 2003 maybe to 2008 or 2012, encryption algorithms are going to be introduced. That means that Kerberos is going to change, so your Kerberos infrastructure needs to be ready. The key KRB TGT account password is going to change because now you can create that salt with a stronger algorithm. In some instances, like when Windows 2012 domain controllers are going to be introduced, things like SID compression are going to be enabled by default. But the most important thing is not necessarily technical, is how you manage the project. So, the key here, and this is some of the tips that we have provided for you. If you're going from 2003 and to 2012 functional level, you have to be at least at Server Suite 2014.1. Uh, Ideally, you would be participating with your Active Directory team in the process of collecting information. Microsoft does have a methodology around this, which is to assess. Most of the time is they're going to try to identify what are all the Active Directory clients out there? Will they be ready for the functional level upgrade? And you need to understand how the methodology works. So the methodology works by starting to introduce higher level domain controllers to the existing environment until the other ones get phased out, the older ones, and then they can basically make the upgrade. But a lot of things start happening while that does, and is that your agents, your Centrify agents are going to actually be incurring some changes. So I've created a lab and I have a Windows 2012 2003 domain controller, and I have my domain is actually on. If I look at the functional level, notice that it's a Windows Server 2003, and it cannot be raised because I still have an old domain controller there. I've already installed Centrify agent using yum here, and I'm going to join Active Directory. So the key here, this is going to be a set of videos. First and foremost, I'm going to show you what are the tools that you have to assess and gather information. So first, I'm gonna join Active Directory. This is not going to have a lot of users, and it's only going to have one system. And in this case, my system is going to be joined in workstation mode. I'm not going to deal with zones or anything. This is just a virtualized environment. So I've joined this machine successfully. And as a recap, what happens when you join Active Directory, right? Let's think about it from a Kerberos perspective. The Kerberos environment is maintained automatically for you by the Centrify agent. So what that means is when you add domain controllers, when you remove domain controllers, when you add trusts and stuff like that, it's pretty much hands off. The agent is going to take care of that. And regardless of the complexity of your AE, you're going to be covered, right? The next thing is to understand how you can gather information about your systems and using Centrify tools. For example, if I wanted to know what is my domain functional level, I can use AD-info, and notice that it's going to tell me, hey, this is you're bound to this domain controller. If I do an AD-info -t, it's going to show you the connectivity, test the connectivity against the domain, and notice that I'm bound. My domain only has this 2K3 machine on it, right? The next thing is maybe I'm curious and I want to know what is the functional level that this domain controllers are running. So AD-info --diag, and I'm going to grep for functionality. And this is going to show me, exactly the behaviors that you see. And notice in here, right? So this domain controller has, the behavior of a Windows 2003 machine, right? So the forest functionality is in Windows 2000. So one of the things that I need to do before I introduce a domain controller in the next video is to actually bring the forest up to 2003, right? So I'm going to do that. And in the next video, I'm going to show you what happens when you introduce a Windows 2012 domain controller, right? And by the way, there's something I need to show you, and is actually the encryption levels, right? So another thing that happens from a Kerberos perspective is that encryption levels are aligned with what the domain controller's capabilities are. So if I do a user share, Centrify DC, Kerberos bin, and we're going to do a klist minus, let's see, minus FE, and we're going to do it against the cache file, krb5.c cache. This, so of course I need to sudo. This is going to show me the, the encryption levels or the strength of the algorithms or the ciphers that are being used at this point. Notice that the my TGT here, the highest that it has is ARC4, right? Same with my ticket that I got for LDAP and for CIFS. So notice I need a service ticket for LDAP to be able to query the directory. I need a service ticket for CIFS, probably to connect to the sysvol of the Active Directory domain controller. So this is important because the first thing that happens when you introduce a higher level domain controller is that depending on what the domain controller is, for example, a 2008 or a 2012, is that the ciphers are going to go up, right? So your Active Directory client needs to be ready for that. So we're going to prove that with Centrify. You're ready to go, and in the next video, I'm going to correct a couple of things here, and in the next video, we're gonna introduce our Windows 2012 domain controller.